Some machines are so enormous they can't legally travel a normal road. A few are so gigantic it takes an entire crew several days just to bolt them together. And when they finally roar to life, you don't just hear them, you feel the earth move under your feet. You'll never see these giants in a showroom or a TV ad. They live out of sight, tearing through solid rock, shifting whole hillsides, and quietly keeping the modern world running. Today, we're touring the largest industrial machines ever built, and somewhere in this lineup is the single biggest machine that has ever moved across the face of the earth. Stay with me, because it only gets bigger from here. Let's start with a machine that completely rewrote the rulebook on what a haul truck could be, the BelAZ 75710, straight out of Belarus. This is the largest mining dump truck in the world, in both sheer size and how much it can carry, and colossal is the only word that fits. It runs about 67.5 feet long, stands over 26 feet tall, and spreads nearly 32 feet wide. Empty, it already weighs around 360 metric tons, and it hauls up to 450 tons of material on top of that. Add it together, and you've got more than 800 tons of moving mass. Powering it are two turbocharged diesel engines, each a 20-cylinder unit good for 2,300 horsepower. Combined, that's 4,600 horsepower. But here's the clever part. That power doesn't go straight to the wheels. Instead, the engines feed a diesel-electric drivetrain, and 4 electric motors, one at each wheel, actually push the truck along. With 8-wheel drive, a smart electronic transmission, and hydro-pneumatic independent suspension, it handles brutal loads with surprising steadiness. The cab, bolted to one side, looks almost comically tiny against the rest of the body. The tires stand nearly 13 feet tall, and the staircase up to the cab climbs as high as a 3-story building. Even the fuel tank is supersized, holding well over 1,300 gallons. It works the huge open pits of Kazakhstan and Russia, where a single one of these replaces whole fleets of smaller trucks and slashes both time and running costs. Back in 2014, it earned an official Guinness World Record as the highest capacity haul truck ever, and that record still stands today. And believe it or not, this record breaker is one of the smaller giants we'll meet today. Next, deep inside a coal pit, is a hauler most people have never laid eyes on, yet it moves more in a single trip than a whole line of ordinary trucks. This is the Kress coal hauler, built in the United States and designed for one job, dragging colossal loads of coal across open pit mines. It stretches about 43 feet, roughly 13 meters, and stands almost 16 feet, close to 5 meters tall. Empty, it already weighs around 90 metric tons. Load it up, and it hauls more than 180 tons of coal in one go, which puts it among the most capable coal carriers anywhere on the planet. Under all that steel sits a Caterpillar 16-cylinder engine, about 27 liters of displacement, throwing down 1,200 horsepower. That muscle is exactly what it takes to get the thing rolling up a steep mine grade while fully loaded. It drives through a heavy-duty automatic gearbox, sends its power to the rear wheels, and rides on a reinforced hydraulic suspension tuned for broken, punishing ground. What really sets it apart is that curved dump bed, shaped to cram in as much payload as possible, plus a side-mounted cab that gives the operator a clear line of sight. The tires alone stand about 10 feet tall. Out in America's coal country, one of these can quietly replace a whole fleet of smaller trucks. And some crews get so attached they give their machine a name and a custom paint job, treating it like the mascot of the mine. It's a beast in its own right, but the machines ahead climb to a scale that's genuinely hard to picture. Picture a truck so tall that climbing into the cab is basically hiking up a 2-story building. That's the Caterpillar 797F, one of the largest mining trucks ever put to work. Built in the United States for the world's biggest mine sites, this giant runs about 49 feet long, 23 feet tall, and nearly 33 feet wide once you fold out the mirrors. Fully loaded, it tops 1.5 million pounds, around 687 metric tons. Even empty, it's still carrying more than 260 tons of its own weight. Beneath the hood is a Caterpillar 20-cylinder engine, over 100 liters of displacement, cranking out a staggering 4,000 horsepower. That power runs through a 7-speed automatic gearbox tuned for grinding uphill across rough ground, driving the rear wheels with heavy suspension and electronically managed brakes to keep it under control on steep mine descents. Each of the 4 main tires stands close to 13 feet tall and costs about as much as a small car one tire. The bed swallows up to 400 tons of rock per load. To shift what this single truck moves in one trip, you'd need roughly 40 ordinary dump trucks. It shows up in iron, copper, and coal mines all over the world, and it's become such an icon that it turns up in exhibits, documentaries, even mining simulators. As one crew at a Canadian mine likes to put it, you don't drive a 797F, you command it. And commanding a truck this size is one thing. The next machine trades wheels for something far stranger. Some machines don't just dig, they redefine the whole idea of power. The Bucyrus 495HR, built by the now legendary Bucyrus International in the United States, is exactly that kind of machine. A mammoth electric rope shovel and an absolute icon of large-scale surface mining. It stands about 50 feet tall at the boom, reaches close to 100 feet in length, and weighs more than 1,270 metric tons. This thing doesn't so much move dirt as move mountains. Instead of a combustion engine, it runs entirely on electricity, fed through high-voltage cables. A huge electric motor drives the systems that hoist, swing, and dig, and every motion is timed with industrial precision. The bucket can lift over 120 tons in a single scoop. It uses a mechanical electric drivetrain and rides on gigantic crawler tracks, each one wide enough to bear the weight of a freight locomotive, with hydraulic systems helping to balance the structure while it excavates. Its front bucket holds up to 157 cubic yards of material, and the boom reaches out past 100 feet, like watching a mobile tower carve into the ground. The high-mounted cab gives the operator a full view and is packed with precision control. You'll find it working coal and iron mines across the United States, Canada, and South Africa, where it strips away the top layers fast so deeper extraction can begin. Even after Caterpillar bought Bucyrus back in 2011, plenty of workers still proudly call it by its original name. And as huge as its reach is, our next machine works in a place none of these others can go, straight down, beneath a living city. Some machines don't just operate underground, they build entire cities beneath the cities we already live in. That's exactly what Bertha was made to do. This tunnel boring machine, commissioned by Washington State's Department of Transportation and designed by Hitachi Zosen in Japan, was handed one enormous task: carve a brand new route straight beneath downtown Seattle, digging the SR-99 tunnel roughly 2 miles through one of the most complicated urban settings in North America. For a while, Bertha held the title of the world's largest tunnel boring machine by diameter, measuring about 57.5 feet across, 330 feet long, and weighing more than 7,000 tons. This wasn't just a digger, it was a self-contained underground factory, driven by 25 electric motors putting out over 8,000 horsepower. It spun a massive cutter head fitted with steel discs and blades that could grind through rock, soil, clay, and concrete alike. The drive system paired those electric motors with hydraulic assist, and the whole machine crept forward inch by inch on an intricate array of thrust cylinders and guide rails. Inside, Bertha carried control rooms, electrical and mechanical gear, conveyor belts to haul out debris, ventilation, and even workspaces for the rotating crew. As it advanced, it dug the tunnel and installed the reinforced concrete lining at the same time, laying down a finished roadway behind it. Precision was everything. It was boring directly under buildings, highways, and water main. Despite a serious breakdown and a long repair, Bertha finished the job in 2017 and was later taken apart, and pieces of her were turned into public art around Seattle. Back above ground, the next machine is the single largest bulldozer humanity has ever built. This one isn't just a bulldozer, it's the biggest crawler dozer on Earth. Meet the Komatsu D575A Mark III Super Dozer, engineered in Japan for the most brutal mining and earth-moving work anywhere. It runs nearly 38 feet long, stands about 16 feet tall, and pushes a blade that's roughly 23 feet, 7 meters wide. All in, it tips past 150 metric tons. Standing next to it feels less like meeting a vehicle and more like walking up to a moving wall of steel. The heart of it is a Komatsu 12-cylinder engine displacing around 46 liters and producing about 1,150 horsepower. That lets the blade shove close to 90 cubic yards of material in a single pass. Think of an entire room packed with dirt, moved in one shove. Its automatic transmission runs long gear ratios for steady, sustained torque, and it crawls on heavy tracks with a rigid suspension that keeps it planted over rough terrain. It's every bit as intimidating as it sounds. That giant blade needs a ground crew guiding it through tight moves, and the low, constant rumble of the engine gives off a sense of momentum that just refuses to stop. You'll find it in big coal operations across the United States and Japan, usually doing the work of several smaller dozers at once, and it's often trucked out to remote sites to flatten enormous tracts of land fast. One of these was once shown off at a Texas expo, and it took 2 full days just to unload the thing. As mighty as it is, the next machine makes even this super dozer look ordinary. When the job is moving outrageous amounts of rock and earth, very few machines can keep pace with the Hitachi EX8000-6. Built in Japan by Hitachi Construction Machinery, it's one of the largest hydraulic excavators ever made, engineered for the most demanding mines on the planet. It stretches about 49 feet long, stands over 33 feet tall with the bucket raised, and weighs in around 811 metric tons. Its footprint is bigger than an entire basketball court, and yet it moves with surprising precision. The power comes from 2 Cummins engines, each a 16-cylinder unit, together delivering close to 3,900 horsepower. With that behind it, the hydraulic arm lifts roughly 59 cubic yards of material per pass, about 75 tons in a single scoop. It runs on a hydrostatic drive system with independent hydraulic circuits, so its movements stay smooth and powerful even under a full load, and its wide crawler tracks and reinforced frame soak up the constant pounding of non-stop work in harsh conditions. Up close, it's genuinely stunning. The bucket is so wide you could park 2 full-sized cars inside it, side by side. The operator's cabin is fully sealed, climate-controlled, sound-insulated, fitted with bulletproof glass and advanced digital controls. A quiet little command post in the middle of all that violence. You'll find the EX8000 in massive copper, gold, and coal mines across Canada, Australia, and Chile. And in some operations, it fills a 300-ton truck in just 4 or 5 passes. And if lifting 75 tons at a time sounds impossible, brace yourself, because the next machine is the single largest of them all. This is the single largest machine humanity has ever built that can actually move under its own power. The BelAZ 293, made in Germany by TAKRAF alongside Siemens, completed in 1995 to mine lignite or brown coal in some of Europe's largest open pits. Its numbers are almost hard to believe. About 738 feet long, 315 feet tall, and a weight of over 14,200 metric tons. Just shifting it to a new spot inside the mine can take several days. The BelAZ 293 is a bucket wheel excavator. It uses a massive rotating wheel fitted with 18 buckets, each one scooping about 8.5 cubic yards of material, and together they can pull up to 8.5 million cubic feet of earth every single day. It's driven entirely by electricity, fed from on-site high-voltage systems delivering a total of around 16,500 horsepower spread across many motors. It glides across the mine floor on a system of tracked undercarriages and steering gear, moving with a slow, unstoppable grace. Inside, it holds technical rooms, maintenance corridors, and equipment stations, feeling far more like a moving industrial facility than any single machine. The operators run it from an elevated cockpit with panoramic views and digital command systems that manage everything from the digging to the coordination of the conveyors. Today it still works in Germany's Hambach open-pit mine, feeding lignite to nearby power plants. This is the absolute ceiling of scale on land, nothing bigger moves. And yet, to finish, I want to show you two machines that prove size isn't the only thing that makes a legend. Built for the most punishing mines on Earth, the Komatsu P&H 4800 XPC is the largest electric rope shovel the company has ever produced, designed and assembled in the United States, and one of the biggest mining machines anywhere. With its boom raised, it towers over 100 feet tall, spreads nearly 65 feet wide, and weighs in past 1,400 metric tons. From a distance, you could genuinely mistake it for a factory. That's how large it is. It runs entirely on electric power, with enormous motors fed straight from grid-connected cables. With close to 10,000 horsepower on tap, its lifting, crowding, and swinging gear operates with force and accuracy that barely flinches, even in the harshest conditions. But the real star of the show is the bucket, capable of hoisting up to 135 tons of material in one swing, enough to fill a 6-story building with rock and dirt in a matter of seconds. It rides on industrial-scale crawler tracks and packs advanced shock-absorbing systems to cut down the structural stress of repetitive digging, while an integrated suspension and rotating base keep it balanced at all times. Design-wise, it looks like a cross between a crane and a mobile refinery. The cabin, mounted high above the ground, carries automated controls, redundant safety systems, and a full 360-degree monitoring setup. One particular unit was painted red, white, and blue and nicknamed Liberty, a tribute to American industrial muscle. But for our final machine, we're going back in time, to the giant that started this entire obsession with building impossibly big. And to close, the legend, Big Muskie. Rolled out in 1969 by Bucyrus in the United States, this electric walking dragline held the crown as the biggest earth-moving machine on the planet for decades, and it's still spoken about with awe today. Big Muskie ran roughly 500 feet long, stood about 70 feet tall at the cab, and swung a boom stretching 310 feet. Its total operating weight passed 13,000 tons, about the mass of 2 small aircraft carriers. Its power came from high-voltage electric lines feeding a bank of motors that together produced more than 18,000 horsepower. Those motors ran the hoisting and swinging systems that maneuvered the dragline bucket, and that bucket could hold nearly 222 cubic yards of earth, about 295 tons in a single scoop. Getting it to move was another story. It didn't roll, it walked on giant pads like enormous mechanical feet, slowly repositioning itself around the mine, with some moves taking days to finish. From a distance, it looked less like construction equipment and more like a power plant on legs. Big Muskie spent its life in Ohio's strip mines, uncovering coal buried under layers of soil and rock, and by the end, it's estimated to have shifted more than 600 million tons of earth. After it was retired in the 1990s, most of it was dismantled, but its enormous bucket was saved, and today it stands as a public monument you can walk right up to. A quiet reminder of just how far human engineering was willing to go, and the giant that inspired every machine on this list. Today you've seen machines that don't just push the limits, they completely redefine them. From skyscraping haulers and monster excavators to entire moving mountains of steel, these are monuments to what human engineering can pull off when it's handed the impossible. They aren't parked in our cities. They work in the shadows in remote mines deep underground, far from anywhere. And yet their impact reaches every single one of us, powering nations, feeding industries, and reshaping the planet itself. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these machines blew your mind the most? If you could stand next to just one, which would it be? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoy this kind of thing, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It genuinely helps the channel. We'll be back next week with more machines that conquer the extremes. See you in the next one.